Hi, James. Welcome. It's really nice to meet you. How are you?
I am fabulous, and I use that word with intent because I feel like I'm full of nutrients from the food that we continually eat on a carnivore lifestyle. And so, answer your question to keep it short. I feel fabulous. I feel healthy, thriving. This isn't just speaking it; it is living it and feeling it. And that's why I think so many people in this carnivore lifestyle want to keep sharing this feeling of greatness, of vibrancy, of gratefulness. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you so much again for joining me. Before we dive in, can you tell me a bit about yourself and how you discovered carnivore? How did it all start?
Yeah, I've been carnivore for 2 years and 4 months, and I believe you're just coming up on 2 years now. So, but all that aside, I'd like to share this quick story of back in college when I was broke. I would buy cheap eggs and stew meat. And stew meat's very lean, but I would probably get enough fat from the eggs, and I felt great. I did it for a full year when I lived by myself. I was very fit. I look back at the photos now, and I'm like, wow, like that's the best I looked in college, hands down. And allowed marketing and normalization to get back into the mind, the mental capacity. And I got back into fast food, the standard diet, mixed, balanced, and moderation, so to speak. So yeah, come full circle, almost 13, 14 years later, when I started this carnivore journey, I knew what worked best for me. I didn't know about the pillars in the space. I didn't know about different communities in this carnivore lifestyle that exist. I didn't know about even people like you who've also found healing and now are spreading the message through your own channels, which is awesome. So basically, I decided, okay, I'm going to do what's been most optimal. Vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, paleo, all these things didn't work for me. Not to say I didn't find improvement, but I wanted to feel optimal. So I knew finding optimal health would be with just eating meat, and almost instantly that rang true.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you finding it out like, during your college years. I actually didn't hear because I think there was a lag. How many years exactly you've been carnivore? Like
Yeah, I've been carnivore 2 years and 4 months.
2 years and 4 months. Okay. That's pretty awesome. And you hearing it like through carnivore, did you have like any specific like person that you heard it from, or did you like just stumble upon like carnivore like through maybe research or something?
No, it was very instinctual for me. I knew it's the food. We have excuses for ourselves. Look, whenever we want to lose weight, or I'll speak for myself, I wanted to lose weight before a trip. What am I going to do as a top priority? Is I'm going to change the food that I eat. That's hands down. I'm going back home to my hometown for the holidays. I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 2 weeks. That's always my game. I'm going to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. Actually, you can. I'm a carnivore, a lot of water weight. But that aside, it's always food. That's the priority number one. Nobody says I'm going to work out harder. No one says I'm going to change. I'm going to do 2 a days. No, everyone says I'm going to change my food. So when it came down to being real with myself, it was food. And like I mentioned, I have done every other diet known to man, except the carnivore diet. Speaking relatively in this phase of my life versus just doing it out of being cheap in my former phase of life in college. So there's two different priorities here. One was a financial priority back in the day, and now it's a health priority. And to be clear, carnivore is extremely affordable because eggs are still affordable, ground beef is affordable. Go into some other cuts of steaks are still affordable, roasts are affordable. So I'm not saying that to imply like carnivores for people only of a certain status of wealth. That's not true. Like you can get brisket very cheap as well. I love brisket. But anyhow, all that aside, um, 2 years, 4 months later, The results continue to speak for themselves, and that's why I'm very honored to be here to talk with you. I'm very honored to be in so many different conversations and community to keep spreading this message to people for enlightenment.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I feel like I feel like you didn't just experiment it. Like you committed for a while. I mean, since college days, and then you were talking about like this is affordable and that like was it hard during those college years like to do the low carb or maybe a straight up just carnivore? I mean, were you ever skeptical about carnivore at first? Because you mentioned you tried different diets like vegan, vegetarian, paleo. Did you with carnivore like you came across carnivore and then was that like more like something to think about or like think it through, or what are your thoughts?
No, that's a really good question, but again, I want to repeat it for the sake of it. Truly was a financial move. If I wanted to be self-sustained, I took a lot of pride in that during college and not trying to ask my parents for money. And I knew going out to eat each meal, like going to call it the campus corner, so to speak, and I could go to the Wendy's and I can get the value meal chicken nuggets plus fries and a drink, but that was still give or take $10 for one meal. Or I could go to the grocery store, buy some eggs and some stew meat, and for that entire meal, you call it, it costs maybe $2. So the price swing was huge. So that was my motivation in college. Again, the results were there. They spoke for themselves to me internally. Again, I look back at evidence, observation. That's the basis of science. And, throughout that year, I continued to remain healthy, and I continued to thrive on the job that I had. School was school. I was always motivated to finish school and study. But this was my junior year, and it's an entire year that I lived by myself, the only year I lived by myself. And I was able to extend into my internship and to extra hours without fatigue. These are observations that I noticed while living a carnivore lifestyle before this modern day phrasing of it, but a meat-based lifestyle. It's very intuitive. Again, the motivation was cost then, whereas now the motivation was just wanting to have optimal health. And that's where I think humanity needs to really wake up. I'll get into that should you want to lead in that direction, but I will land here by saying humanity, at a broad perspective, is asleep to health. And I say we collectively as human species are outsourcing our health to the medical system and pharmaceuticals. And this is extremely obvious in the popularity of GLP-1 drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really awesome how you like took the time to like figure everything out and pretty much like paid attention to what's really going on, especially with the nutrition. Before doing carnivore, did you had like any health issue going on? Like, did you do it for maybe losing weight or like just feeling better, or just like maybe I want to try this because I've heard something.
Yes, another great question. My priority was to lose weight. I look back to the observation of my college days, and of course, I can think back now and say, wow, yes, the mental clarity existed, the energy existed, but I was more or less looking at the photos of the time. I look back and I'm like, okay, look, lean, look proportional in a way that a fit human can look. That was my motivation, mostly weight loss. And very quickly, the priorities shifted though. The renewed discovery of mental health showed itself with bright lights. Suddenly, so when I started carnivore, it was primarily for weight loss. Of course, I had lots of weight to lose. In total, I've lost about between 40 and 50 pounds, considering my lowest or my homeostatic weight, which is adjustable for all humans. But very quickly, within weeks, I noticed the power of mental health and the stable energy that was approaching waking up in the morning and not waking up groggy and tired, waking up and realizing I don't have like goo coming out of my eyes, waking up and wanting to go work out. I'd never wanted to do that. Motivation is another, like wanting to go do things and be proactive about life, wanting to love and connect with people. These are all things that happen very quickly when eating proper foods, when the brain is given proper nutrition. That's where motivation happens. Like motivation isn't kicking oneself and saying, go do something, because it's kind of like walking backwards. You want to walk the right way forward. The whole process of our bodies is, look, if we don't eat, we die. That's clear as day. There's no arguing that. So what we eat matters. And when I flipped to the carnivore lifestyle and carnivore way of eating, like the body shifted quickly. Of course, the weight didn't come off right away, but the most important and vital areas of the body are going to take effect first. So I would think things like the brain, of course, the heart, organs, all these things that maybe were underfed properly suddenly start working a lot, very well. So that's my biggest takeaway. And again, as far as like so many people discover carnivore because of health issues, whether it's their own or a loved one. And I think we can raise our hands and say that, to themselves, say, I know somebody who has either suffered through or died from modern chronic disease. And that's how chronic, quote, air quotes, this issue is that every single person in the world, almost everybody, maybe one or two who can't, maybe they're too young, but everybody will at some point in this modern day raise their hand and say, I know somebody who has suffered through or died from chronic disease, modern chronic disease. And that is all directed from the foods that we're eating, the poison that we're eating, meaning we call it poison because it's not meant for humans, on this consistent basis that we are regularly eating. So yeah, I don't want to go on too much of a rant. I'll stop here, but I think that's the main issue that we need to wake up to.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. I feel like that's how I actually feel about the whole food system and the nutrition. But I'm actually curious about this one. Because before you were carnivore, did you had any like assumption what was the root cause of your maybe like gaining weight? Like with for me, I'm thinking because I had other health issues as well, right? Like also I was heavier at some point in my life, and then I have anxiety, also get nervous a lot. But I'm thinking maybe I'm just stressed, or this is causing me to gain weight. And then sometimes I don't like the energy of the other person. Maybe that's why we don't vibe or something. Did you had any like assumption, like even before carnivore?
Yeah, I'll try to answer your question appropriately, because I mean it's open-ended and it's a great question, a great perspective too. But I would say my overall take on life has changed, to your point. I mean, I knew, as I mentioned, the cause of weight gain was the food I was eating. Whether I did low carb or not, when I was doing low carb or paleo, I may have lost weight, but I was still gaining weight in other scenarios. And because I was cheating myself, like so many people, I'm doing low carb, okay, but I'm eating chicken tenders without the fries. But I'm cheating myself because the chicken tenders are healthy, right? It's chicken, healthy. It's just a little bit of breading, even though, the breading is made up of clearly starches and seasonings, and people also hide from the fact that there are sugars in this breading. And if every chicken tender tasted the same across every restaurant, every chicken tender would taste the same if it was a similar mix. But that's why you go to this restaurant for this flavor of chicken tender and that restaurant for another flavor of chicken tender. And that's why you have a preference, because it's really about not just the starches, but the sugars that are added in it. So I was cheating myself ultimately. And I wouldn't really ask the proper questions of why am I gaining weight even though I cut the fries, but because I'm eating more chicken tenders. It's crazy. So ultimately, to get back to your point though, my outlook on life has changed. Meaning, you're right. There was anxiety and depression. As I mentioned, I was prescribed medication for those. But when I approached the doctors, they never had anything to say except here's a prescription and on your way. So they didn't care. So I had to find that I had to discover that myself, that healing can take place with food. It's just the brain looking for proper nutrients, mostly with red fatty meat and animal fats. And a lot of that's included with eggs as well. But now I live a life of confidence. Like to your point, I had anxiety, I had nervousness. Approaching somebody and asking them a question was interesting. I don't know. I'm nervous. Should I say it? How should I say it? Now it's a point, and again, brain fuel. It's really interacting with a human. It's another human. I say something, you can agree, you can disagree, but I'm going to give my reasons why and with confidence. And part of that confidence comes with this experience that we're living as carnivores, as this healing has taken place. I'm 2 years, 4 months in. 3 months into this journey, I would still approach with timid mindset, a little bit of caution. People approach today, almost 2.5 years into this, with the consistency, the healing, and all these benefits we've already discussed. I'm going to say, tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead and try to tell me I'm wrong, because I'm standing right here, and here's my before and after, and here's just me. And here's just you, and I'm not saying you can't be healthy other ways out of carnivore, but you cannot deny what's standing before you. And that's where the confidence comes from now. And there is no nervousness anymore. It is what it is. We're here. We're making a name. I know big business is out there for profit, so I don't think carnivore will ever be like the main diet for humanity. But I, from this point on, am so deep down, driven to help at least enlighten people that they can own their own health, that meat and animal fats are most optimal for humans. So I want people to be aware that plants are local and seasonal in nature everywhere, even near the equator. And again, they're very seasonal, emphasis on that. So even in a very tropical area, a certain fruit would only be ripe for a month. So look, we can eat fruits, sure. But eating a fruit every day of the year, acting like that's normal, is where I have the issue. I'm going to say, hey, that's not normal. But it's available year round across the world, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, any time of year is red fatty meat.
Yeah, I love that actually. Yeah, very well said. Here's a fun question. Before going carnivore, what was your favorite food?
Fries. I think I mentioned it, but fries were my go-to. And also, as I've navigated these different diets, what got me out of them typically was fries as well. So I'll speak to the vegan diet, for example. I call it vegan properly because vegan diet, unless it's raw vegan, most vegans allow processed foods. And we know that's not good. It's a product. It's not food at all. It's just cosplay of food. But I got out of so I vegan properly, meaning I didn't use the processed foods, but I became very undernourished, and my family called me out. They're like, "You don't look healthy at all. What's going on?" All that aside, I got out of it. Number one, eating meat because I missed it. Should have been listening to myself then. But then also fries. I was like, I'm gonna get back into the processed foods. I'm not gonna be vegan because I'm addicted to fries. And all that aside, I got into paleo, and same thing. I cut the fries. That's when I did better. I got consistent, and the fries is what got me back off. And so the fries were the worst for me leading up to this carnivore journey. That's where I gained a lot of weight, and I had a little trick that I used to cover fries with a napkin, so I didn't see them when I was trying to go low carb. And I would just eat a few, and now I know like that still didn't help. You got to be consistent. Don't eat, it's not essential at all. But in the time, these mind games, I would just cover the fries and eat like half, right? But even half is still too much of a serving for one human for a day, let alone maybe that week. And that aside, knowing humanity eats more sugar in 1 week. Let me not butcher this stat, but I believe modern humans today, eat more sugar in 1 week than we did in an entire year, or maybe it's 1 month in an entire year, but it's something like that. Someone please do some fact check me while watching or listening to this. But basically, we're eating so much more sugar astronomically compared to what we did in the 19th century. And that's really just showing up to this food system, which is causing sickness in humanity. So we just got to wake up to that. Like what we're eating now isn't normal. And I went on a tangent, so I kind of forgot where you were trying to guide this conversation with a question, but I do apologize. But hopefully that information at least came across. Oh, yeah. Try to remind me, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're on the right track because I asked about your favorite food, so which is fries.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of my favorite food also. And you mentioned about like the paleo diet. I think paleo diet pretty much led me to carnivore as well. I think that's a really cool experience. James, with looking back at your carnivore journey now, like were there any mistakes you made? Like how did you learn from them? Did you ever had a moment of doubt?
Well, it's an ongoing journey. Optimal health is forever ongoing. How we feel today, if we're on that optimal journey, will feel very different and hopefully worse than 6 months from now. And that 6 months will feel worse than the following six, and it'll perpetuate continually. So I feel better today than I did halfway through the carnivore journey, on my carnivore journey. And that's because we learn. There's a lot of mistakes I can think of. One for me would be sausage. I don't really include sausage on my carnivore menu, though I did early on. But at the same time, comparing to where I came from, just eating sausage was much better. Just eating hot dogs was much better than eating fries. Bring that word up again. And eating, chicken tenders, all these things. So, the no sugar sweet drink has no sugar in it. Great. All these things that I thought were healthy aren't. So ultimately, like I would say early on, I definitely was high in sausage. I probably included some cured meats that weren't the healthiest. I definitely did not look for the added sugar in bacon early on. So that's another area where, the sugar industry and food industry will try to put sugar in anything, and they'll try to mask it with some fake name that no one can pronounce, or three in one food. So I think those are some of my early mistakes, but for the most part, I just said, look, get the plants out, get out of here, and carbs, you stay over there. Meat, come on, be friends. So it's really expanded to the point now where I kept hearing about people saying lion diet, and I'm like, that's kind of crazy. I'm not gonna go that far. But I got to the in the journey where now I'm 3 months into lion, and I say I'm a consistent lion, not a strict lion. So I mean, I'm consistent that every meal has ruminant meat, and occasionally I'll add in salmon. Occasionally I'll add in bacon, and I don't. So yeah, meat became the best friend. Now, lion diet, I heard a lot about lion diet, and initially in this journey, I thought that was a bit much. There's no way I'm going to eat just ruminants. But as we navigate down month by month, and it becomes years, and it becomes a lifestyle, I started to really consider maybe lion is the best option for me to try and see how I respond. So I've been about 3 months into the lion journey, which is ruminant meats only. I'm consistently lion, not a strict lion, meaning I will have ruminant red meat every single meal, typically 2 meals a day. But occasionally, like once or twice a week, I'll add salmon or I'll add bacon. Or as I've learned, because of this strict elimination and mostly incorporating ruminants, eggs don't work for me. And that's tough. Of course, people say it's the egg whites, and that's true. But I've also tried the just the yolks, and of course, it's a little bit smoother digestion. But eggs don't work as well for me through this journey, through this, and that's something I've actually noticed consistently from the beginning. I said it to another carnivore, one of the early carnivore friends of mine, and he was like, "No, they're nature's multivitamin. What do you mean?" And I'm like, "I just don't do well." So through elimination in this lion diet journey, I really have started to clarify that eggs don't work so well for me. Um, and that's tough because I like the way they taste. I like the texture. And it's not so much, I don't think it's providing energy. It's just poor digestion. I don't have any pain out of it. I don't get any side effects from eating eggs except just poor digestion. And we know, excuse me, and we know digestion is important. We should be absorbing a lot of what we're eating. If it's finding its way into the toilet, then it's not being used by the body. So again, not to get into details here, but there's a lot of unused eggs in my digestion, and that's just clear and apparent with me. So again, something I've loved to eat growing up, even through all the diets. But now I have clean digestion eating ruminant meats, and occasionally adding bacon and salmon have also proven to be worthy of proper digestion. So that's my carnivore journey. Have I failed on this journey? Early on, I'd say yes. I went for a pizza, maybe as a reward. I think it was like a week or two in. I had it marked on my calendar on my phone, and I'm like, I'm gonna get there and I'm gonna have this large pizza. I did that, and as I'm eating the pizza after like just 2 weeks or so on this carnivore journey, I wasn't fulfilled. It was crazy. Like already, food wasn't entertainment anymore, and it happened so quick. And I was motivated after that to be like, I don't want to just entertain myself with food. I can entertain myself in other ways. Like now I've learned, I'll circle back to this pizza and early on in my, where maybe I failed in carnivore, but now I can just sit in peace with myself. I love talking with you, and I'm honored, as I mentioned, very honored to be here with you and discuss this storytelling of success, hopefully success that other people perceive. But if I wasn't, I can sit here alone and be happy, and that is entertainment. And sit and have the sun and listen to the trees and the birds, and that's simple. That's life. That's ecosystem. It's carnivore zen, if you want to call it that. But all that, I'll go back to the pizza. And I ate the pizza again 2 weeks or so in, and I wasn't entertained by it anymore. And I said to myself, you know what? This is only just gonna make me like gain weight. I already know this because I've already been there and done that in my life. So what's the benefit of a cheat meal? A cheat meal, as I now call it, is just cheating yourself. We know that now, but when you're in a different lifestyle, a cheat meal is like you feel like you're taking advantage of the moment. This is great. This is a cheat meal. I earned this one. No, it's a cheating yourself, cheating your health. So all that aside, that was my one cheat. I would say another one was give or take around the same time, but orange juice. I felt like I needed sugar. The mental strain of what I had normalized, it was like, I need sugar. And so I was up early one morning, and I was like, more anxiety about myself. It wasn't anxiety from brain undernourishment like the previous versions I'd experienced in life. But this was more of a, why am I feeling healthy? All the questions, why am I feeling healthy without sugar and without carbs? This is crazy. So I went to the refrigerator and I chugged a gallon of orange juice. And the same thing, I was like, I didn't need this. Maybe I just needed water. I really just need water. That's crazy. All these things. Wake up, eat your orange juice, and have your cereal. This is what you're going to need before school. All these things we're told. And again, I say the word brainwashing because it really is. And it's not, maybe people don't intend to brainwash, but it is brainwashing. And you tell somebody, you fear them into it, you fear adults into a way of thinking because you're not going to just trick adults. Adults mostly like to critical think, but then you throw fear in there. Suddenly, like, oh, let me listen, okay. But you kids, don't have to do much. Once the adults are feared into it, the kids are going to follow suit. And so that's where I was raised into this upside down food pyramid because the current one in America here is right. And I know your audience and the carnivore community is global. So I say that from the perspective of some people don't have that. Anyway, all that aside, the previous food pyramid was upside down. I lived it. I grew up in it. And that's why I chugged orange juice because I was still living by that. And other than that, though, I've been very
Wow.
consistent.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I feel like it's very relatable, especially with discovering that we've been using food as a comfort to entertain ourselves. And yeah, I feel like that's the same thing for me. I never realized how much I've been using it as an entertainment. When you can just pretty much get another entertainment, through different ways. Yeah, that's really cool. James, what is the hardest thing about being carnivore for you? Like example for me would be social gatherings with family and friends. Travel. I have to scout like restaurants or maybe like where I'm gonna get my food, or like cravings in the beginning that disappeared like after 1 year for me. Like in your circle, did you like face skepticism from family and friends? Yeah, what's the hardest thing for you?
That's another great question. I love your approach here because they're wide ranging questions, but because this journey is wide ranging. I think people who, like me previously, assume that meat is unhealthy. That's the biggest challenge, is proving to people their own belief system while we as humans are standing in front of them, whether it's digital or in person, and being the example, and family and friends and colleagues all saying, you look better, you have much more energy, look at you, your skin looks good, all these things that happen to healthier people. Yet it's the mindset of, but meat is bad by default. How can someone look better, feel better, be more energized, and it's due to meat? It is backwards and upside down. And that's the biggest challenge, is convincing people. Again, it's a brainwashing. It's whether it's intentional at the beginning, which then perpetuated to be unintentional. It's a brainwashing that has gotten the world into trouble. So that's my biggest motivation, is to, again, enlighten and awaken people. And I'm very enthused. And one example of how this shows up is, yes, my family, I have my own brother. One of my two brothers was said, you do carnivore for 3 full years. I won't believe it's healthy until you complete 3 full years of carnivore. Well, I am waiting because I'm at 2 so I am so ready to say, hey, guess what? 3 years is here. And now what? I love my brother, by the way, and I'm not knocking him, but it's the way that we're triggered to think. I don't blame him for believing that, but I'm motivated to get 3 years for him, not for me, because I'm living this life. I'm going to keep living the life, but for him, that'll be an enlightenment period. And then for my other brother, he started keto. It's not carnivore, but just like you, maybe keto will lead him down to a carnivore path. Did he listen to me? Of course not. Your family's usually the most distant and the most aggressive about denying, worried about your health, so to speak. But my brother told me, he calls me one day, this is recent, maybe like almost a month ago now, and says, hey, just want to let you know I'm on the keto diet. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. He's like, I've been doing it for 3 days now. And I was like, all right, like what motivated you to do keto? Because he's been a standard dieter his entire life. And we're the same age, we're twins. So his entire life, he's never done any other diet except standard. So anyhow, I'm like, number one, it's big, he's doing keto. And then he says to me, look, my friends, I have two friends who are doing keto and they have that same energy that you do about carnivore. And so that's where it works. That's where the energy comes from. So somebody may not listen to me, even my own brother, right away, or even over these 2 years, and at that point, 3 months of carnivore for me. But it's that energy of saying, hey, try to listen to this podcast. Hey, this is how the physiology or the biology actually works. This is what you've been told. This is what's actually, misleading. All these things. And his friends say the same thing, which relates to keto. And then now he's on the keto journey. But it also took that momentum of my energy, month by month, year over year. And so ultimately, the toughest part about carnivore, to answer your question, again, it's wide ranging and thoroughly, is just awakening people. You don't get better by doing something bad. You don't get better by eating meat if eating meat is bad. And I just eat meat, and you just eat meat, and carnivores just eat meat or eggs. If you want to include that in there, like, and so it's across the world this mindset of no, the mainstream. Look, we know, but I want to say it for those who don't. Mainstream nutrition science is a for-profit business. It is a tens and twenties of trillions of dollars per year business. If you want to expand it beyond the studies themselves and into actual subscriptions to health. So it's a huge for-profit business, and for-profit doesn't want healthy people because healthy people don't need to buy their services and products. Now, I think unhealthy people who are seeking real health and seek it properly with a coach who will help them, but a coach also empowers the individual. Hey, I'm going to coach you for as long as I need to until you're empowered to then live your own life. And a lot of people need that kind of help. So that can be profitable. Let's not get it twisted here. And I'm not saying that being healthy is free, but we're in such a bad state that we need these carnivore coaches that exist, or mainstream doctors that are acknowledging a carnivore lifestyle is healing and healthy. But yeah, that's the biggest challenge, is waking people up and looking through, using logic and common sense and critical thinking to what is actual health. And as we said earlier, everybody in the world will raise their hand and say that they know somebody, a loved one, a friend, or family who is suffering, has suffered, or has died from modern chronic disease. And that is an issue that should be screaming and glaring at everybody. Awesome. Toughest part there is that it's just helping people to see, like, we're not in a healthy state. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. James, I thoroughly agree with, with everything you said. I feel like you said it really well. I mean, I feel like I really like your perspective on this. I've been trying to connect the dots also, like, because you've been mentioning like a brainwashing, awakening, waking people up. I feel like after carnivore, like result, like for me, looking at world in a different perspective, I feel like everything was wrong, or we've been lied to. Yeah, I feel like everything is just a lie. That goes beyond just cultural aspect of life, or maybe different countries, and then I realized that the proper nutrition is, goes further than that, and just trying to connect the dots. But I like your perspective, like. Also, some lies, maybe some example about, violence around the world. Is it because, what we've been feeding ourselves, themselves, is it because of that, things like that. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes. I mean, okay. We have different religions across the globe. We have different politics across the globe. We have different governments, and we all have different flags. But the one common theme for every human is we have to eat food. And the only thing that unifies humanity across the board is eating and then community. Obviously, breathing and drinking water as well. But so food supersedes race, religion, politics, you name it. And that's how important this is. And the catch, to me, that should be alarming as well. Another red flag for humanity should be, if you open up Twitter or X, or you turn on traditional legacy news, and breaking news is, to your point, war. Like, okay, that's the breaking news every day. The breaking news is some sort of violence. The breaking news is, oh, there's some sort of virus about to take over the world. That's the breaking news. But when a human or hundreds of thousands have cured their cancer, that's not breaking news, because they've used little medical intervention, because they've consumed mainly red fatty meat and cut out plants and carbs and food products. That's not breaking news. So glaring red flags. And I'll rephrase the word cure to the way I've seen it used as corrected. Because to me, cure is a term, a medical system term that's not used. It's a miracle. It's a miracle if you're cured. Or if there is a cure, it's because the medical system made it happen. Okay? There is no cure, just call it corrected, because we were incorrected to get into the troubled space in the first place. So that's where I guess I come to answer your question again. And again, these are great wide-ranging questions, but to then funnel it down is, why aren't we talking more about this? That's my goal. And that's your goal, of course, too, is to awaken people to this. That virus over there, that's the focus. But again, we're closing gyms, yet the fast food restaurants are open. I'm so glad that happened, because so many people are awakening to that. But why did it take a year of sitting at home to realize for so many people? Even still, to the point, if people were to sit down right now at home and just think critically, have that full year of don't go to work, what do you say about food? Let's talk about food. And are we getting healthier or unhealthier? And based on what foods are we eating? I'll circle back to those who know someone who has suffered or has died from modern chronic disease. I almost guarantee you none of them had a surplus of red fatty meat intake. I almost guarantee you that. They almost everybody, including my dad, my uncle, my best friend who passed away, and I had another uncle from my husband's side who passed away just over a month ago. I guarantee you they all feared red meat. I even talked to my uncle who just passed, and he was talking about how he's not eating red meat. I can live through the conversations with my dad who passed. All of them died of heart attacks. All of them had organ failures. And I guarantee you, through conversations and knowing and living with them, that they feared red fatty meat and they didn't have a surplus of it. So people, wake up, raise your hand if you know somebody who suffered or has died from these modern, again, everyone's raising their hand, right? Everybody is. All right, now which one of these people ate too much red fatty meat alone? Or were they eating processed foods and sugars and plants and juicing? Probably the latter. Almost guarantee it. So people want to use mainstream dogma against carnivore, then you go ahead and try. But you're going. That says more about you than it does about the people living it. So you can look bad if you want to. I want to call you out. You look bad. Sorry. You want to say, oh, it's going to cause, watch out for the colon cancer in 2 years. No, that's from fermentation of foods that ferment, that don't digest, going down to the colon. Let's think practically about this. Go find somebody with, the colon. We can get into the fermentation of cellular respiration as well. I'm not going to get into it, but there's so many things I've learned in this journey. Very motivated. I want humans to be healthy. I don't want anybody, I don't want to see the suffering that I've seen. And as I get older, and I say older, more mature is a better way to say it, in this life, and I see people who reach a certain age and they fall off the earth. My best friend, again, older, but wasn't nearly in the age to be having a heart attack, a single heart attack that ended his life. So to see these things and to know how they live their lives in those final years or decades is extremely apparent and motivating. And I called out 4 people in my own life, and that's just me. And how about everybody? How many people do other people have? And are we just going to live with it that this is how life goes down? I'm not. I'm not living that for myself, for my household, and for the people that I'm around. And I won't be preachy about it the way I am with you, since I know we're in the same space, but I will live that life and I will stand by it for those who want to question. And I got one more comment on this because another occurrence happened just at the end of maybe a few days ago. I was at a lunch and everybody wants to just bring up, they have fun with it, knowing that I'm the carnivore in the room. And the person's like, oh, how's your cholesterol? Lighthearted fun. But, calling it out to the group. So everybody then, instead of all separate conversations, everyone's looking at me. Oh yeah, like that's crazy. You eat meat, and what's your cardiologist say? All these questions. And I give them the random, carnivore response. Look, cholesterol is good for you. Cholesterol is associated with early death. But no, that's not true. What about X, Y? All these things, all the follow-up questions. So I love how that goes down, but I know it's working because somebody kind of swooped in last minute, and she's great. She heard the conversation and says to everybody there, actually, no, red fatty meat is the most optimal food for humans, and animal fats are also optimal. She just went down the line. And I know her pretty well, and she's a standard eater. Now, I'll give her credit. She's very healthy and fit, but she's still a standard eater, and she's saying this in support of carnivore diet. So that to me is telling me that some people are waking up to this, whether, again, practicing and living the lifestyle are two very different things. But clearly she knows it, and she stood up to everybody who was, again, lighthearted fun. But that's the world we're living in right now. So I'm going to step off of the preacher box here, so got me motivated. But that's the life. That's where we are. That's where I'm at. It's just to awaken and enlighten people. Like, hey, find your health. You can live and thrive. You don't have to live in suffering. And so many people don't even know they're suffering. Just blindly walked into it in their life. They're born into it. So wake up, everybody. You can live that life. You can thrive.
That's awesome and very well said again. I mean, that's a very good example story you mentioned, with how how's everyone's cholesterol, and also, I'm glad you gave the example of waking everybody up during the COVID years. It took like a whole year, right? Like for people to wake up, we had this place is closed, but the fast food joints are open. Yeah, that's a very good example too. James, if you had to describe the impact of carnivore in your life, what one word would you describe it, and tell me why?
Ooh, okay. Well, I'll just bring a word because there's probably like too many words to use, but momentous. Ooh, momentous. Every month compounds on itself. I just love it. I don't know how to describe it. I'm trying to think of too many words at once here. Let me just talk to it though. Momentum. It continues over and over. And as we started this conversation, 6 months should be better than day one. And then 1 year should be better than day 6. And so again, 2 years, 4 months into this journey is better than 2 years into this journey. And a lot of it extends beyond just the body, the physical, the mind. It's more into the overall awareness of humanity. And that's how it starts to scale up. It's more of in what ways can I be in position to enlighten and awaken other people? If it's, of course, through your channel for myself, and you do this constantly, so you're already in this, so I love it. Let me just not acknowledge you for the great work that you're doing. But if it's just for me, if it's being here with you, of course I'll do it, and I'm honored that you invited me. If it's being at work and, eating a stick of butter as a snack, and that's an example, like I'll live that just to show what can I do in the future, moving beyond just now, to set up broader community. I know you and I are in a group chat, the Carnivore community worldwide, the Village, which is a group chat of about 120 people, carnivores mostly, some keto, and that's one community that I'm happy to be a part of. I'm very enthused, and so many people are doing other great works. The goal ultimately is to just affect 1% of population. If we can affect 1% today, then that 1% will then compound to affect the next 1%. Okay, and that's significant. Again, carnivore won't be the most mainstream diet or lifestyle because profit's in the way, and too many people are waking up asleep, to be awakened. But this trend can flip rather quickly, and I do believe it has flipped rather quickly already. Again, for-profit business for mainstream nutritional studies. With this for-profit, and again, at tens and twenties of trillions of dollars, I see too many, with that money in mind, I have also started to realize that there are so many, I call them bot accounts on social media, that are clearly funded in some capacity or influenced by this profit agenda. I'm going to call it what it is, because nobody is out there, except maybe a carnivore, out there with random accounts with zero posts and like no followers, and then commenting about trust the science, trust the mainstream science. You shouldn't eat meat. No, that's clearly some influence from big food and big pharma, because we have made an impact. They wouldn't be doing this had we not already made impact. Here, too bad, nothing you can do. I have discovered the truth, and I will not. You fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I won't be fooled again. I'm not getting fooled again, and I'm waking up other people so they won't get fooled again either, because they're already fooled right now. You're not going to trick me again, bot. I'll call you like it is. Yeah, you're a human, and you get me motivated, but I'll be motivated. Yeah, you're a human hiding behind a computer, and you probably have 20 accounts paid for or at least initiated through big food, big pharma influence somewhere, or through some agency hired by them, whatever the case might be. But we're here. That's proof. So keep talking all that talk all you want, bots. I'm speaking to them in the third person, but we're here. We're making impact. Those bots wouldn't be here if Carnivore already hadn't made impact across the globe and across their sales, across their profit, because they're spending a lot of money on these studies, so to speak, and they're not getting the return that they're hoping for. Oh, that's an issue for them. It's going to be an issue. We're in a world that needs to be flipped upside down, where humans are optimized instead of managed. Healthy humans should be optimized. That's where mainstream medical or coaching should be mainstream, not medical system. It should be a coaching as a mainstream business to be optimized. So again, motivated. If you can't tell, I do appreciate you allowing me to go on these extended phrases here, but yeah, motivated.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you give a lot of good examples. I feel like very straight to the point, and also very straight pat. I mean, I pretty much agree also, because those social media bots that you refer to, sometimes I just wonder, like, they have no clue. They give this like debunk. They say they debunk it, like, this is how the carnivore, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that. They just don't have any clue, and I just feel cringe, on their end. But yeah, I mean, I have two more questions for you that I want to get on. This is going to expand more to what you're referring to later, but James, knowing what you know now about carnivore and nutrition, if you can give an advice to someone who's having a chronic pain issues, or and they see that you're having so much success, you look so confident, like because of carnivore, but they're super skeptical about it, or like they have no clue. They think that you're gonna get a heart issues or heart problems. What would you tell them?
You have nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose if you have pain right now. What's going on in your life? Let's talk through what ailments are going on. An easy one that almost a lot of people have, and it's become mainstream that there's a mental health awareness month, at least here in the U.S., where I know you and I both reside. But for the global audience, once again, they may not have this, but it's a mental health awareness month. If that doesn't scream problem, I don't know what does. There's a cancer awareness month. Again, problem. So I would say, what's going on in your life that you're not winning? And let's realize this doesn't just happen. Aging doesn't just happen. Mental health illness doesn't just happen. Illness or disease is formed. Okay, and primarily through what we eat, but that's going to be the shocker to most people. So anyway, what do you have to lose? The joint pain, inflammation, itis, arthritis, whatever. Itis is inflammation, medical term. Most people don't know that, even though it's very simple. Like, you're nodding your head, Joseph, like you know that, and it's very obvious and clear. But most people will be like, "Oh, I thought that meant like automatic life sentence. Arthritis meant automatic. I have to deal with." No. It's just you're inflamed. You've got some calcium or oxalate buildup, from the foods that you're eating in the joint, which could be causing inflammation, or it's just buildup. So again, the joint pain is one area I didn't call out specifically, but I'm going to call it out now. Joint pain, mental health illnesses is another area. We can go down the line, but what people are dealing with is you're not winning. You can look healthy. Have a lean profile, have a six pack, and be strong in the gym. But number one, you're in an inefficient motor. If you're eating 6 times a day, that should be screaming, "I'm not getting enough nutrients." Again, but that's brainwashing. It's being told I need to eat 6 times a day. Nonetheless, sure, you can be healthy, but what else? What other elements are you dealing with? Digestive issues. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. Yeah, you can look healthy, but what digestion issues are you going through? Like, are you having pain? Are you having to go to the bathroom excessively? That's a common occurrence as well. Like, where are you not winning in life? Let's look at every little area that you think is subtle. Let's call it out. A headache, a simple headache, is where you're not winning in life. We want to talk about anxiety and depression as far as mental health goes. Like, your brain is starving. So all that is, where are you not winning? These are areas where you're not winning, and you can, should you give your body an opportunity by eating meat. Cut out the plants. You don't need them. Cut out the fruits. I say plants because it's fruits and vegetables. Let me just clarify. But yeah, cut out the plants. Cut out the carbs. You don't need them. Cut out the processed foods. Cut out the wheat. All these things are the cause of ailments that we don't look at as chronic disease, but it really is. So again, it's a great question. Ultimately, where are people not winning? And having a headache or a migraine is an area of not winning. Having simple joint pain and having simple skin tags is not winning in life, and it's due to our metabolic health. Our metabolic status is the driver of how we live.
That's a pretty awesome advice, James. I feel like a lot more people who are trying carnivore for the first time can pretty much learn a lot from you if they, if they listen to you. So I feel like I'm learning as we go to this conversation too. Um, James, how do you see carnivore in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see carnivore being in a positive light or in a negative light? Let's say negative, meaning maybe censorship, media with the falsifying information, discrediting it, maybe meat prices going high. At the same time, positive light would be more people want to learn about carnivore, more people joining community. We're gonna see this more a lot in the social media. I mean, there's the movement is pretty much rising. It just keeps going faster. What are your thoughts?
So I believe it's Gandhi's quote, which is first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And again, fact check me on it for the viewers or listeners. I believe it's Gandhi, and that's where we are. I think we were ignored. I won't say they. We've been ignored. We've done enough to expand. We've been laughed at, meaning at least people talk about it, but they don't give it any substance. And now we're at war. We're cutting into profits. We are going to change in the next 5 years, change what the food system looks like. You could talk about what's at present day with RFK and the Make America Healthy Again movement. I'd say we need to make the globe healthy again. But in 5 years, it will flip the food system. We're already at a place where sodas are losing business significantly. And these same companies are then flipping in carbonated sugar waters to not call them soda. But all that aside, is in 5 years, I don't know. It's going to be great, though. We're going to keep expanding. Carnivore won't be the most popular lifestyle and diet on the planet ever. But I think success would be that it rivals in numbers to what a vegan vegetarian lifestyle exists to today. So to me, in 5 years, if there are I don't know how many number. Let's just call. I don't know the number for a number of vegan and vegetarians, but I'd say there maybe at least 1% of the population. And I know India has a lot of vegetarians as well with the high population count. But let's just be safe. Call it 1% of the population, with the majority of everybody else eating a standard diet. In 5 years, if carnivores are at 1% of the population, then we've done a good thing. And we're going to continue doing a good thing by helping people find their health, their optimal health, so that they're not falling off the earth decades early, and so that their final days aren't socializing with doctors instead of their own friends. So their final days aren't into a care facility with people that they don't know, who are also not losing their own minds, and they can't have any common communication. For the people in these care facilities who don't even start to recognize their own friends and family who come to visit them, that's what I want to see the end of. And I've seen that in my family too. Again, I'm at a more mature age where I'm seeing people leave the earth. That's fine, but it's how they're leaving. It's their last years. It's their last decades. It's them socializing with doctors and not their friends and family. So that's where ultimately 5 years is all we can do is what we're doing every day, which is expand, awaken, enlighten people, and so that they can find continued health and reverse their ailments. I don't want to say cure because that's the wrong term, but they can correct and reverse and maintain that reversal forever. Cancer isn't the big bad wolf that we all thought it was. It's just food. I'm just going to call it like it is. All these things. A heart attack isn't the big bad wolf that we all thought it is. It's just the food. It's simple, and it's uncoupling the brainwashing. That's the challenge. So enlightening and awakening people isn't just saying, "Hey, I'm a carnivore. Hey, try it out." No, it's explaining a thorough insight into how the world exists and how profit is the strategy to try to influence life.
Yeah, very well said, James. I feel like, yeah, I mean, from my experience, I feel like I had a hard time wrapping everything, up, after finding the result from Carnivore. I feel like, what else can we do, like, to better humanity, like as a whole, right? But
Yeah.
I think you have a really good perspective on this. I feel like it's on point, like, you know, especially for the future generation. Um, James, if people want to reach out or connect with you, where's the best place to reach you?
Yes. James Eat Carnivore. All one word across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
Excellent. I'm gonna make sure to post them all in the description. James, thank you so much again for joining me. I really enjoyed hearing your story and your perspective, also your carnivore journey. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate you having me.